Welcome back. It's yet another build, and this time it's going to be 1/10 scale, a Traxxas TRX-4 1979 K-Fug Blazer in the Resto Mod Black. So this is my first TRX-4 to build up here, and this stage 1 I'm going to dub the brass and bling stage. So let's just jump right in here. I went with Injora brass for the incredibly good price point. So we've got these brass C-hub carriers for the front, brass inner portals for the front, and brass outer portals for the front. Then I've got even heavier brass outer portals for the rear, because that's all the weight it's going to get in the rear. And I've got aluminum inners to carry those in the rear. Then I'm going to try out these +4 axles to widen the track a little bit. I really am impressed with my M.I.P tools, so I'm assuming this will be top notch. Let's jump over here to start the bling. We've got the Reefs Raw 500, which is 500 ounces at 7.4 volts. But I do not have a BEC in this, and since I don't know the direction I'm going to go on electronics, I'm not going to add one yet. So this puts out 450 ounces at 6 volts. So that should be more than enough to turn this brass. And then for the body, this isn't really bling, but I guess it is. It'll get rid of the body post. This is a magnetic mounting system I'm going to try out. Instead of gluing magnets, I can always glue if I don't like this, but I'm going to try it. And then continuing the bling here, we've got some aluminum portal mounts for the rear, and then aluminum shock mounts, all from STRC. Then in the first video I talked about this Traxxas bling, the swivel mirrors and the push bar. And we continue that under the belly with some skids. And then this last little piece here is really nice. This is from GPM. It's engraved on the skid, it's all metal. Much more affordable than the RC 4-wheel drive version, much more affordable. So that's stage 1. There may be a surprise if time permits, we will see. But otherwise, I'm going to dive right in. Alright, I got a little update here. Got everything pulled apart and ready to swap in here. So you can see all the brass kind of compared to the plastic parts. There's the extended axle. Got all the bearings pulled out. I've got my shock mount ready. So everything really easy to pull off. It makes sense to just pull the axle fully out. Makes everything really easy to get to. Don't have to get into the differential pumpkin for any of this stuff. It's just the outer portals. So anyways, that's kind of the guts here, if you will. So I'm going to get this put together. That doesn't look right. So a little bit of bad luck here. Some advice here: do not buy Injora black brass. They've got some problems here. These kingpin bushings are super tight, so they don't swivel at all within the C-arm. And they sent me 3 of one length, 1 of the other. They're all too short, none of them poke through. So when you screw down, you're actually compressing against the C-arm, and so you tighten everything and it doesn't want to turn. This outer portal weight that I was going to use on the front, again, like this lip on the inside is too tight, and you just have to crush it on there. And when I put it on with this inner, none of the gears would turn. It was all bound up. So you can see I've got the stock plastic outer on there and everything works fine. I chalk it up to the coating on there, just tolerances. This back bearing in here was super tight as well. So these are basically unusable, and I test fit this on the rear with the GPM aluminum carrier, same issue. Now the big heavy outer from Injora actually works, it's got a little wiggle room actually. I mean, not just a hair, but I mean, you can see it just plops right on there, no problem. So the rears will be a success. I'm just gonna have to order some replacement brass for the front end. So I should have just gone with Treal, my go-to. They always seem to be in spec, or SSD is another one I like. They're always super tight tolerances, really nice brass. So you get what you pay for. Value doesn't equal cheapness, because there is no value here. Look at that. Well, since I hit that roadblock on the front axle, I decided to jump to the rear, and everything went on just fine. Didn't have to take out the axle on this one. Just doesn't have as much stuff blocking access. So got one side in, no binding or anything. These aluminum inner carriers come with 2 new uppers. These are for these 2 guys up here. They're a little bit shorter. And then the portal weights came with just a bunch of hardware I didn't use, but it actually had the same length in black, so I used those instead. And those are the 2 a little bit longer left over that are stock. So all of these are a little shorter than stock. And then I don't know why they give you these. These are like super long. Maybe they give you hardware to work with other Injora. I don't know. They don't give you any instructions. So anyways, it's on. It looks good. It's definitely going to be rear heavy, but I did place an order to remedy my front end brass. So should have a solution for that front axle shortly. And here we are with the completed blinged out and brassed out rear axle. So I went ahead and got that stainless skid on there from Crawler Central / Club 5 Racing. So that's got a full capture point on one screw and then a pinch on the other. So hopefully that will hang on. That looks really good. I like that little bit of silver added. It's a bummer about the front axle, but that's going to be resolved shortly. So let's see what we're moving on to here next. All right, back in action on the front axle. So I can't be too hard on Injora. I contacted them and they worked with me. I sent them a video. They ended up refunding money for all 3 of these parts, and all they wanted back was the C-arms to take a look at. So these are the Treal that I ordered as replacements. These all fit and work great. The kingpin bushings go in and swivel. They just drop in, no issues. And of course the outer portal weights and these inners, they just slide right on, no problem. So I actually test fit all this Treal with it in the video as well. None of it fit. So only the stock plastic could snap and stretch around those Injora pieces and clip on. But even then you kind of had to wiggle it. And you know, with all this, you know, assembled, the gears, bearings, axles in there, you don't have room to wiggle this side to side. You really just need to go straight on, and then everything screws straight in. So anyways, happier with these pieces. You can see they machine out the critical bearing seats and they machine out the threads. So anything that's like a critical tolerance, they take the coating off of, which is a big difference in the Injora parts versus these. So these are all, I believe, a little bit heavier. So I'll be adding a tad bit more weight, but at least this is all on the front side. So I'm going to get this assembled and get this axle back on the truck. All right, got the front axle done. looking good. No problems with this Treal brass. Everything went in super easy. Great fitment. Got the Club 5 skid on, and of course the M.I.P extended axles. So the front end is ready to go. Aluminum link mounts are on. And then one interesting thing is I had two longer screws with these C-arms, and I didn't realize what they were for until I installed these. And you can see the shock mount screw sticks out pretty far, and I think because these C-arms are bulkier, just the brass footprint, that they're going to interfere with that shock mount once it's installed, if it can even be installed there. So my thought is you put in shorter screws and just mount the links here, and then you've got 6 alternate positions on each C-arm to choose from to mount your lower shock point. I will verify that when I get this back on the truck, but that's my logic at least. But really nice steering angle if we can achieve that once this is actually hooked up. So I think while I've got all of this weight off of the front end, I'm going to go ahead and tackle this servo installation, which should be a piece of cake with nothing in the way. I'll just need to take off the, I guess, receiver cover and kind of route this wire down through the Traxxas kind of wiring there. They've got it all super clean, and I think little points to tie off to. So I think that'll be most of the trigger work, is just getting that wire routed, but this should be super easy. And then it's on to a little more bling, and then the body side, and that should do it for this. Back in action, got that raw 500 servo in, no problems. The mount points are a little bit narrower than the Traxxas mount points. So these mount points actually have a bushing kind of built in on the Traxxas side, so the servo holes have to center on those mounts. But then these, you can see, are off center from the Reefs holes just a little bit, which works fine. It's still pinching and sandwiching it fine. It's not going anywhere. Just so that's something to kind of know. And then the servo wire from the Reefs was a little bit shorter than the Traxxas wire. So you can see I doubled it up here and clipped it to the little Traxxas clip. And then I actually used servo extension coming right here with the plug, so I can plug and unplug the Reefs independently without taking off the cover to the receiver. So that's nice. So then all that, you know, there's plenty of slack and everything for that cable. So that all worked well. Front end went back in, no problems. I did mount the shocks on the C-arms. As you can see there, I mounted them in the top outer hole, so they're basically level from their stock position. And then one other thing I went ahead and did was I put in the wireless link to my radio that installs right here. And I did that for a couple reasons, but the reason immediately that I did it was to go ahead and be able to fine-tune the steering a little bit better and set endpoints independently. So I went ahead and set my max endpoints and, you know, got the servo centered up, so everything's good to go. So I think the next move here will be jumping over to this front and rear skid, and I guess this is gas tank and exhaust assembly as well. And then this CCHand front skid from RC 4-wheel drive. So those just bolt on to the side of the frame. Simple installation, so I'm going to go ahead and get those on. Then we get the wheels on, and then look at that front bumper push bar, which is super easy, and then we'll jump over to the body. Look at that. Sweet. Nice little push bar went on with 2 screws. Got this front skid on there. That looks great. Super easy. And then we flip this guy around. view of the rear here. So one little thing I had to do on the bumper mount was kind of shave off these two little cylinders that protrude down to be able to get the gas tank to sit flush in the rear. I don't know if you can see it on this, but there's two little kind of rings where the pins come through, and those are about a millimeter and a half thick. So I just shaved those off flush, and that allowed that gas tank in the rear to sit flat. Tell you what, the body needs, I think that body needs some magnet mounts. So I think that's what we're going to move to next, is look at these Integy mounts, and then I've got these Traxxas swivel side mirrors. So those ought to be a quick replacement for these right here. So that's next. All right, a little progress here. You can see I've got them on the body, or on the frame here, and they just pin mount right here. So I've lowered these down 2 holes. Still gives me a little bit of body lift. And then I've got the front one kind of straight and tightened on. And then since there's a little play, I kind of snugged these up, but left them loose, and then set the body on the frame, slid the back end over to center it, and then taped it kind of from the top, pulled it off, and taped it from the bottom. And then I can remove that tape from the screws, and I'm about to snug this up so it'll all be nice and centered as it sits on the chassis. So far I'm very impressed with these. Got them in. Gotta say that's pretty clean. For the ease of installation versus having to glue in magnets and wait on those, and just kind of the mess of all that. You know, if I'd done the magnets, I would still see the holes and probably, you know, the top of the black pins about flush with the hood. So, I mean, this isn't a bad compromise. You still don't have the pins to scratch the hood, and everything's black and pretty much low profile. So, and you can see I've got a little bit of body lift here. I'm just out of the slider channel. So I guess one more post, so 3 posts down would probably put it about stock. The issue is, of course, with these +4 axles, you know, I'm getting into the body on compression, and look at that. So I may adjust these back up temporarily for a little body lift, just to clear that. But I've got some plans for wheels, tires, and potentially a lift kit. So we'll just have to see how I can deal with this width of these axles. So let's jump right over to the mirrors here and look at those. All right, I went one more peg upwards on both front and rear body posts. So got a little more lift, still getting some rub, but I think it's starting to convince me to just go ahead and get the lift kit potentially. It's starting to look pretty mean. So now I've got the mirrors out here to take a look at. As you can see, they've got 3 mount points and then a little backing plate, and then they come with the mirror decal and instructions. And of course, Traxxas is so thorough. They give you a nice little template, so I don't have to make my own out of Lexan. So these should be a snap to mount up, so I'm going to get those thrown on. Okay, I'm back. Got the mirrors on. They look sweet, and instead of showing you just some mirrors, I'm going to jump right into the lighting here. This was a little surprise. I guess not a full surprise. I mentioned this in the first video, but I did end up picking up the additional rock lights. So I'm going to put in the Pro Scale lights. So this is the actual lighting control system here, which I guess has a mount, and this is the body mount harness with one plug to the controller here. And then if you've got a Traxxas system or receiver, you can use the MaxLink and the Traxxas app, which is what I'm going to use with that Bluetooth link to control these lights. And then this is from your servo. This goes into channel 1 and kind of splits that off. This goes into your motor, so you unplug your motor and plug these in between. So pretty simple there. Then you have to buy the kit that has all the lights and the light buckets. And then there's one other little part here. What is this? Just an installation kit. So it's for the Blazer. So 3 pieces you need, and then that additional rock light piece. So just going over the instructions, it's pretty clear. I was a little confused at first until I realized that Traxxas has 2 channel 1s on their receivers. So now the wiring makes perfect sense. It was saying plug one of these into channel 1. Well, that's the servo, but you've still got the servo plugged in because you've got 2 channel 1s. So I'm going to jump in, get this installed, and we'll take a look at the results shortly. Well, this isn't a completed installation, but I am a little further in understanding a few of these key pieces, so I thought I would share that. So this 8039 Blazer light kit is a standalone kit. You could just buy this on its own. It's got its own distribution block and mount. It has reverse lights, it has tail lights and headlights and front marker. And it does not have a bunch of expandability, and it doesn't have reverse lights. So that's the small block and the mount piece. So then if you buy the Pro Scale controls, you get a bigger distribution block with more expandability, more functionality. So then you would not be using these 2 pieces. So that is why you need the 8082 kit with the Pro Scale, because you get a new distribution mount for this large distribution block you're now using with the Pro Scale kit. And you also get reverse lights, because now you have that functionality with Pro Scale. So that is kind of the what the 3 kits are. And you can see this is that Blazer reverse light kit, just showing you you've got the new distribution block mount, and you've got reverse lights. And then this is just the lighting kit from the Blazer with just the tiny distribution block and smaller mount that we won't be using for this. And then of course the rock lights totally separate, don't have anything to do with any of these kits. So now I will get to the installation now that I fully comprehend it. Okay, last update here. Another nice piece of information is if you have the TQI receiver, which I do, and the wireless Bluetooth link, you just have to use this max link. One plug runs over here. You don't have to use this receiver communication cable that splits everything. You don't have to use that. You don't have to do that extra blue wire to that extra channel 1. So none of that. You just leave everything plugged in as it is, and you only use the max link wire. So that's kind of nice. I don't have to use the splitter wire and unplug all these ports. I can just plug in one wire, one port. So another handy bit of info, and that's right up here at the top, saying you use only one of the communication cables to connect the lighting device. So we're using the max link on this one. So here we go, for real. Well, here's some progress. So I've got the whole chassis side done. I got the rock lights in. As you can see, just kind of tie wrap those to themselves at the front and back kind of juncture to keep them up on the fender well and keep that up close to the supports. I had to take this up to be able to kind of snake stuff in and back there. Had to take out the battery tray because I routed this max link cable down right here, and it goes right there with the micro servo wires. So it comes out on the other side. And it is this black with the little blue. So that's the only cable that had to go in the receiver box. But yeah, I had to take the battery tray out. I had to loosen the 2 screws so I could pull this whole tray up that holds both of these, just to get the channel kind of looser in here to run wires, and then get those set and snug it back. But yeah, it went in pretty easily as far as you know, the plug and play side of it. Just like anything automotive, most of the time was moving things out of the way to do the work and then putting them back. So now I'm ready to jump over to the body lights. So I've got the body shell portion on, and I just wanted to give you a look under here before I put it on and show you the lights. So the rear tail lights you don't have to take out. They just pop right in, the LEDs. And here's the distribution block, and you can see the mount there screws into the door handle. So super easy there. And then the headlights, you do remove the housings, and then the circuit board just sandwiches in. And then the side markers just plug in as well, you don't remove those. And then you've got plenty of tie wrap points, and they provide you those 2 little stick-on pieces to use. And of course you've got the single harness that comes over to the light controller here to plug and unplug, or just leave plugged in as it is. So now I'll get the body on, get a battery in there, and show you the lights. Look at that. Turn signals. Now I've got high and low beams and remote on off from my phone, but since I'm using that to film, I don't think I can really show that. I'll show the and then I've got the rock lights. The only negative I see so far is, as far as the Traxxas link, there's not a way to switch those rock lights on and off. So I'm going to investigate that a little more and see if I can get those switchable. But overall, I'm super happy at this stage with where we are. Just gorgeous. I gotta say, these lights came out great. I could not be any happier with that. Just looks awesome. So next phase is going to be wheels and tires. Wheels should be arriving shortly. Tires have been ordered. So it's just getting that fender clearance in order, and hopefully we can clear these tires that I bought. But stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and more to come on this.